Hey, how you doing? Let's talk about the iPad. Specifically, whether or not the iPad is a worthy investment if you're a student. So if you're in a rush, the iPad is an excellent tool for students, but you don't need it. It's great for convenience, it makes things a lot more convenient, and it's nice having all of your notes in one place, but pen and paper isn't obsolete just because the iPad was invented. Having an iPad might make things a lot easier, but it's not a requirement. You can totally get by with just pen and paper. And in some cases, it can actually make things worse, like, for example, distractions. But let's dive deeper, shall we? This isn't a review of the iPad model specifically. This is a discussion of the iPad in general as a student tool. However, for those that are curious, this is the iPad Air M2 11-inch, and I've had this ever since September when I started university, and this has the Apple Pencil Pro, ESR folio case, and a random glass screen protector I found on Amazon. So if you're curious about this iPad, I made a review. You can watch it in the card up there. And as my main note-taking app, I use GoodNotes 6, which is pretty cool. So I made one of these student-oriented iPad reviews in 2023 when I was in high school, but now as a university student, I have a new perspective, so I decided to revisit the topic. So I'll start by talking about the benefits of iPads, then move on to its drawbacks, and then we'll move on to a more holistic discussion of whether or not the iPad is the right choice for you as a student. So the first benefit is digital note-taking. You can take notes digitally. You basically have unlimited paper, unlimited notebooks, unlimited stationery, unlimited colors for those stationery, so many different notebook designs, notebook paper styles. I use GoodNotes 6, which uses a more traditional page style, right, like page by page. But there are apps, for example, like Concepts, OneNote, Freeform. Those apps allow for a more infinite whiteboard style of note-taking, so you can draw stuff like mind maps and do more visual note-taking. Some people swear by it and think it's better, but I like to stick to my traditional notebook format since it makes doing and submitting assignments easier. And I think of it as more forgiving than paper, since it's easier to erase something on an iPad, and it's easy to move stuff around on an iPad. On pen and paper, whiting out mistakes and erasing them leaves marks, and good luck trying to rearrange the layout of your page. And also for those of you that actually have friends, sending notes is super easy too. You just tap the share button, you don't have to take pictures of notes, and it just sends a digital copy. Really nice, really convenient. And you can basically never lose notes again. Forget about forgetting notes. Some apps let you sync notes to the cloud and you can access them anywhere you have an internet connection. I use GoodNotes and that's available for iOS as well as macOS. And Windows now too, I'm pretty sure. And most apps let you search through your own notes, and you even get a feature in GoodNotes that lets you record lectures, which I think is pretty handy for when the teacher is just talking away like Eminem, and they're just being way too fast for you to write everything down in time, so you just record it. There's just a quick button where you can just record it, and you can go back, revisit it. It's really nice. The second benefit are the digital resources that you can access on the iPad. You can download textbooks and stuff and carry them with you, annotate on them as you please. As a university student, I know how expensive textbooks can be. Like, I almost had to pay $85 for 2 textbooks, and I also had to buy a $132 digital textbook at one point. But I can find some of those textbooks that I need on websites that are in PDF version, and I can download them. But as a student, money is tight, so it's nice to have those digital versions of the textbook available for free, and then I don't have to pay for a physical or a digital copy from the official university. I can also download lesson slides, and then I can annotate them to my heart's content. My teacher taught off slides in high school, so it was really useful annotating the slideshows, adding notes as they taught off of them and read off of them and added their own little things. I do the same thing here in university with the profs. They also teach off of slides, like some of them. So it's really convenient to just have that slideshow open, just make down notes whenever you want. And when I'm studying by myself, I like having my slides open on one side of the iPad in split view and then my note-taking app on the other side. And then having that split view is really nice because then I don't have to be looking back and forth up at a screen, down on my notebook paper. It's all just on my iPad screen. The third benefit is reduced weight and size. It doesn't matter how many notes, how many textbooks you have on your iPad. Pencil cases and highlighters are replaced just with this one little pencil. So no more carrying notebooks and textbooks around. Basically no more carrying stationery and a pencil case around. I don't have a pencil case. I just carry some stationery and a notebook around with me just in case I need to do paper stuff, like if I need to lend some paper to a friend or if the teacher needs me to fold something for whatever reason. That was kind of a thing in high school, but in university they don't really make you do that anymore, so I don't really have to carry around paper anymore. But yeah, depending on whether or not you're in high school or university, eliminating paper from your school life can be a little more complicated than you might think, because in high school there's so many handouts, but then in university there's not as many handouts. I'll get to that in the holistic discussion, but let's first talk about the fourth benefit, which is that it's more than a notebook. The iPad can help you in more ways than just making note-taking more convenient, than making looking at textbooks more convenient. It's a whole computer. It's basically a big iPhone. It's an excellent companion device. For example, I can use Sidecar to have it as an external Mac display. So if I need more screen real estate when I'm out and about, like if I'm in a coffee shop or something, I can just prop up this iPad and use it as a second screen for my MacBook. And universal control also lets me use my Mac keyboard and trackpad on the iPad. Again, super convenient, super awesome. And I can also mark up documents and edit documents. Like if I need to sign something, I don't need to print it out, sign it, and scan it. I can just do it right on the iPad and then send it away. It's really convenient, really nice. And having a camera allows you to take pictures of stuff and then annotate, then send that drawing to anyone you need to, or use it anywhere you want in your notes or whatever. And that's something I think is pretty unique to the iPad. Like there's not any other one device that allows you to do that. And digital worksheets no longer need to be printed out and scanned. Just do them on the iPad and send them electronically to your teacher. For math, I know we just had like question sheets, and then I would do the questions on my iPad in GoodNotes and then just export the pages as like PDFs or something, send it to the teacher. Really awesome, really convenient, and I didn't have to use any paper. And I can also use this thing as a planner. Like I used to use Notion a lot, but I love the Apple Calendar and the Apple Reminders app. They're so simple, easy to use, but I use them to plan my day, and it's been working out pretty nice so far. But you know what doesn't work out all that nice? The iPad. Sometimes. The biggest drawback is the cost, I think. So this configuration right here, the 256 gigabyte iPad Air M2 with, oh shoot, I dropped my Apple Pencil. The Apple Pencil Pro here, this is like $100 something bucks. The iPad itself, this was like 1,000 Canadian dollars just for the iPad. Then I had to buy like a screen protector, a case, which are relatively small expenses, but they're still like, they still add on to that final cost. Get a drink of water. And this isn't even the highest end iPad. This is the Air. There's also a Pro tier, and that can go even further. But I don't think anyone as a student really needs the Pro. Like this has more than enough performance for a tablet. Of course, Apple has student discounts if you're in university, but even then, these things are still hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, depending on your configuration. Like this whole thing was still close to $1,000 even after the student discounts and everything. I did get a $140 gift card though, and that helped me pay off most of the Apple Pencil. So if you want a really good deal on a brand new Apple iPad from Apple, wait till the summer, because then that's when their student discounts start, and you also get a gift card with that student discount if you buy like an iPad or a MacBook, and that's a pretty good deal. And technically it's only for college students, but even if you're in like high school, they don't check if you're in college or not. So yeah, you can just use that educational discount to buy this iPad. And also, depending on the university, I know the University of Toronto has a thing where it's like 25% off all Apple products. But yeah, depending on your university, you might have some further discounts that you can probably stack to make the iPad a lot cheaper. But yeah, the iPad is expensive, and that's just the iPad. There are also some hidden costs involved, like the accessories I mentioned before, case, screen protector, Apple Pencil, which can be close to or even exceeding $100. You can buy cheap knockoff Apple Pencils that do the job fine though, but then there's also software. Lots of note-taking software is a subscription or an expensive one-time purchase. I had to buy GoodNotes for almost 40 Canadian dollars, which is a pretty steep price to pay. But most of these apps do have their free versions, and there are free apps like OneNote and Apple Notes that can be really good as well. The second drawback is the software limitations. So if you're thinking of using the iPad as a computer, you can kind of pull it off, maybe, but it's not ideal. Remember that Apple ultimately wants to sell you both an iPad and a MacBook, not one or the other, so they're not going to cannibalize their Mac sales by letting the iPad do everything a Mac can. So they walk that fine line of letting the iPad be powerful, but not powerful enough such that it'll overcome the Mac and make the Mac redundant. I got pretty in-depth about this issue in my iPad Air review. Again, you can watch it up there. But basically, the iPad is more of a big iPhone than a dumbed-down MacBook, and basic stuff is either locked down to the higher-end models or just not there at all. For example, connecting the iPad to a monitor, that's limited to just the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. Same thing with Stage Manager, which if you don't know is like the thing that lets you do floating windows and cool window management on the iPad. That is also just on the Air and the Pro for some reason. But like, why are basic floating windows locked down to the Air and the Pro models? That seems kind of silly to me. So yeah, only the Air and Pro get this floating window true multitasking treatment. The regular iPad and the iPad mini gets the very basic multitasking features like split view and like the stack, which again is kind of silly. There's also no such thing as ejecting hard drives. Like on a computer, right? If you plug in a drive, you have to eject it software-wise before you unplug it. That helps preserve the data on there. It's just there. It's always been a thing on computers. It's not here on the iPad. You can plug in like external drives and access data and stuff, but it's not here on the iPad. Like you can't eject that drive after you're done with it. You just have to close all the apps that you think are using the drive and then just pray that nothing's using the drive and then just pull it out and hope none of the data got damaged, which I think is stupid. Like you can't claim your computer if you don't have that basic feature. But yeah, overall, Moral of the story, I don't recommend using an iPad for school as your primary computer. You never know what software you might need to run, and if you're in engineering, oh, forget about it. Also, I remember I had like this module at one point and I needed to watch a video to finish that module, and I couldn't do it on here for some random reason. I think it's because it thought the iPad was an iPhone and it was like, oh, it's not supported. You need like some sort of extension. So I had to do it on my MacBook because no matter what web browser I tried, it just wouldn't work on the iPad. So in the end, I think it's more suited as a companion device to your main machine, whether that's a desktop, laptop, Windows computer, MacBook, but it's not suited to be a main device, I don't think. The third drawback is that it isn't paper. This is less of a problem in university and more of a problem in high school, but if you're in class and you have to do something that involves physical manipulation of the paper, like folding, cutting, and pasting or whatever, you can't really do that with an iPad. Actually, I guess you can. But paper is cheap and disposable, something the iPad will never be. Let me know when an iPad costs as much as a single sheet of paper. And if your friend asks to borrow a sheet of paper, well, you can't because the paper doesn't really exist. It's on your iPad. So this isn't a huge deal. In high school, I just carried around a thin duotang of paper around with me, and that was still lighter than carrying all the binders and notebooks and stuff. But in uni, I don't even really need to do that since more people have iPads and the profs never really hand stuff out or do much that requires having paper, cutting paper with you. And I'll talk about how the iPad landscape is in university versus in high school in the holistic discussion again. So we'll get to that. And the fourth drawback, it's a piece of technology. You know what else the iPad can do other than take notes? It's a distraction, and some teachers might not be okay with that, and that's a totally valid concern. In high school, I just asked my teachers ahead of time if I could use it, like at the beginning of the semester, and most of them were fine with it. In university, more people have iPads, and you can also just assume teachers are okay with it unless they specifically say they aren't. I think I had just one physics professor say we couldn't use technology in the class. Every other prof has been pretty lenient. However, it's up to you to be responsible and disciplined. I'm not any better. I often find myself doom scrolling on the side when I find the lectures to be less than exciting, which I know is really bad, so the main way I remedy this is by taking the Wi-Fi off, which you don't really need anyways if you're just taking notes. So yeah, let it boost your learning, not bring it down. Also, it's an electronic device, it needs to be charged, and so does the pencil. Pen and paper? Pretty much infinite battery life. Charging honestly isn't a big deal for me though, since we already charge so many things. What's one more device? And they say don't keep your eggs in one basket, and they're right. Don't put your entire academic career on one device without having a backup plan. iPads can die out of nowhere. Keep your digital data backed up. And even if they don't dramatically die out of nowhere, my old iPad 9th gen started getting laggy and stuff, and even this new iPad Air M2, the latest iPad Air, mind you, while it's been smoothly, it's crashed a couple times as well. So right now I'm filming B-roll clips for the video, and look, we have a wallpaper glitch, which is so fun. Nope, still broken. And I haven't had severe issues yet, but I've heard stories of people's iPads just dying completely. This device is your academic career. Take care of it, make sure to back it up. Also, one more thing, it can be a little claustrophobic at times. I don't really know how to explain this other than like saying like with paper, right? You can sprawl it out and look at all that stuff to your heart's content. Like I can have sheet of paper here, sheet of paper here, sheet of paper here. But on an iPad, you can't really sprawl out like a sheets of paper and have it like cover your desk. It has to stay on that iPad. So all of your work is within this like 11-inch screen or like 13-inch screen, and it can get kind of cramped at times. And I've gotten used to it, but if you're used to like having like your notes here and like your worksheet here, your periodic table here, your like syntax sheet here, or whatever you need like sprawled out on your desk, just keep in mind you can't really have that sort of sprawl with an iPad. All right, on to the holistic discussion. Basically, if I had to sum it all up in one sentence, you don't need it. But it's very nice to have depending on where you are in your academics, if you're in high school or university. I'm gonna be so honest, if you're in high school, you probably don't need this. As a uni student though, I can definitely see the appeal. In high school, I was pretty much the only one with an iPad, and it can be a bit awkward at times, especially if you get handouts a lot. I would have to scan them into my iPad and then do them on my iPad, and I was scared that one day I'd realize I need to hand something in person, except that I had it done on my iPad. It can be almost a hassle in high school unless you develop an efficient system. In uni, however, iPads are so much more widespread. At least here in Canada, I'd even dare to say there's more iPad users than regular pen and paper users. Because in uni, teachers don't really give you handouts or stuff to you, and you're expected to be more responsible for your learning and more independent. So more of like their coursework and stuff is all posted online. Like uni classes are more note-taking based. Worksheets have all been online. Homework has all been online. And generally, like, it's more like independent, self-guided style learning. Anyways, yeah, in uni, I'd say it's more balanced. Everywhere I go, I see at least a couple students grinding away on an iPad and an Apple Pencil. In classrooms, I see them everywhere. Even my friends who didn't use iPads in high school got one for university because it makes managing your workload much easier by putting everything on one device. Because here in Canada, university, you have like 5, 6, sometimes even 7 courses, whereas in high school, you have only 4 courses. So having an iPad is actually pretty beneficial in managing all that and keeping all of your work on this one device. That's a pretty big commitment, by the way, moving your entire school life to digital. Some people I know just use the iPad as a notebook, but still use paper as well. But I think it's more efficient to just keep everything on your iPad, backing it up, of course. But like if I'm traveling, I can just bring the iPad with me instead of all my work, and it's great. Here's what my friend thinks. What do you think about the iPad?
Honestly, it's okay. Like, it's just an infinite whiteboard. It's like nothing.
Dang. See, she doesn't use her iPad that much. She still
use them
uses
both.
she still uses pen and paper.
When life gets hard, aka gonna get you.
And you need to be sure you won't let it impact your learning. The iPad is a capable device, maybe too capable. Also, will you have a use for this thing outside of school? If money is tight, it might not be wise to get one just for school. I'm going to be completely honest, I don't use this as much as I should outside of school. I mostly use my computer and my phone. The iPad is just a device for Netflix and stuff. Ultimately, I like to think of this as a bicycle for your mind. A bicycle makes it easier to get around, but you still need to pedal to get anywhere. The iPad, it makes things easier, but you still need to do the work for yourself to get anywhere. Overall, it's changed the way I do my schoolwork. What the? Okay. So I accidentally stopped the camera, whoops, but overall the iPad's changed the way I do my schoolwork. I think it was worth it for me personally. Oh, the screen's gone. Yeah. And I think it can be a worthy investment as long as you intend to use it to its full potential for school and not just to buy one because it's trendy or you think it looks cool. It's ultimately just a really expensive school supply and you don't want to buy it without knowing for sure whether or not you actually use it as a tool. So hopefully this helped you with your decision. If you set your mind on getting an iPad, I have a review of my personal iPad, the iPad Air M2, in the card up above, so you can watch that. And you can buy all the products I've talked about in the links below in the description and in the comments. If you have questions, I'll answer them to the best of my abilities in the comments, and I wish you the best of luck in your studies. Alright, be awesome and stay techie. Bye! I don't remember what I was trying to say in this script. It's a bit confusing. Blackbird sing in the dead of night. Oh, Muji stuff is so nice. Also, the iPad is basically the same size as a regular notebook like this is. Oh wow, that's almost perfect. Like, this is a regular notebook, and this is my iPad. And it pretty much fits perfectly, like, dimension-wise.